I want to share the screen. Steve Young stopped by, and he had Steve's always really good.
He's the best.
Here's what Steve said about the trade deadline, or about the not the trade deadline. Steve talking about multiple running back formations and CMC, and he's talking about using all three running backs at the same time. Let me see if I can play this again here. Here we go. Hold on a second. Let me open this up. Here's Steve with Copes and Tommy.
You mentioned Christian McCaffrey potentially next week, Steve. I mean, we're all excited about it. John Lynch this morning was very coy about a snap count. I think we'd all anticipate he'd be on some kind of pitch count or something when he comes on back. But if he's able to go as of next week or as of week 10, I've got the Niners in a much better position, obviously. But based on the pieces that they've discovered this year, you talked about Guerendo, talked about what Jordan Mason's been able to do. I'd imagine they'll be able to have one of the best backfields, maybe the deepest in the NFC.
And also, I think because of their flexibility and who they are, you could put all three of them on the field at once. I mean, but I think it's that kind of possibility to put defenses in a position where they have something that's going to threaten them. Right now, one thing that Brandon Ayuk did, and I told you this when he was trying to get signed, he gets open quick and he's got a deep threat. He's going to pull the top off, and so there's fear about what he can do. And when defense, that's in the NFL, you better have fear in their system or they're predatory. They just keep creeping and creeping. So we've lost that. And we don't have that. Now, George has his own way to get open. Debo has his own unique ways to get open, but not that. So how do we create fear? And I think we create fear with more incredibly talented people to do things that are unusual against linebackers, against safeties, out of position. And that's what they can do with formation and putting those guys on the field. So I'm like, all three of them at once, probably not. But Guerendo and CMC on the field at the same time with Debo and George, I think there's threats that can be created. So I like what we're getting with the backfield, and I think it'd be helpful, not just running the football, but actually threatening in the pass game.
Well, what do you think, Paulie? That's kind of an interesting concept of, hey, you could put, CMC at halfback, Mason at fullback, flex out Guerendo as a wide receiver. He was a high school wide receiver. I mean, you could put him on the field at the same time. I do hear what Steve's saying there. My takeaway from that is just that it sounds like he's saying, hey, look, you lost a dynamic weapon in Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
And the one thing about Cowing and Pearsall to some degree, but Cowing and Guerendo is specifically, they're dynamic. And if you can utilize them in any way as a receiver, running back, however you get them on the field, you might want to see, Shanahan may want to get creative with how he utilizes Cowing and Guerendo to try to take advantage. I mean, the Niners don't have a lot of guys with big time speed. Speed means so much in the NFL. You drafted Cowing, he runs 4.38. You drafted Guerendo, he runs 4.33. And you've already kind of got a little bit of a taste of it. I kind of agree with Steve. I think what he's saying there is Shanahan may get creative with how he uses his playmakers because he's looking for a dynamic kind of replacement for Ayuk.
Great. I'd love to see it. I mean, I would love to see Shanahan flex that creativity. If you want to line Guerendo out or you want to split him wide, fantastic. Give the defense, give him a different look, man. Make him consider other guys coming in different spots on the field. I'm all for that kind of stuff. That kind of brings me back to the Bill Walsh era. Bill Walsh was always trying unorthodox things, lining guys up in unusual positions. And if anything, I think it just keeps the defense on its heels and they don't know what's coming. So yeah, man, let it go. Let it out, man. Get creative. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it's smart. As far as trades, the one trade that I would love to see the Niners make, and I don't know if they can make it, is I'm looking at all these different teams and the different players that are out there and who's available, who's not. I'm looking at Jacksonville, and Jacksonville, Trent Baalke's there. Doug Peterson is right now favored to be the next head coach fired. There's a lot of speculation, Paulie, that they're going to fire both Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson and maybe replace him with Belichick and give him total control. That's the rumor from a few weeks ago. But they have two guys that I think absolutely would get the Niners over the top. So you got CMC coming back. You got Greenlaw coming back. You got Moody coming back. You've got Jennings coming back. But you don't really have any edge rush coming back. What about trading like a third and a fourth round pick to Jacksonville over the next couple drafts for Trayvon Walker, their defensive end, and Darnell Savage, their safety / nickel corner. To me, the Niners have some good young DBs, but they really could use one more veteran who can cover and be versatile and play a bunch of different spots, and Savage is that. And then Trayvon Walker, was the first pick in the draft in 2022 in front of Aiden Hutchinson. But there's a lot of talk that the Jaguars may get into a fire sale mode type situation.
Well,
and if you offered them, a third and a fourth round pick, I mean, we just saw D-Hop go for a fifth. We just saw Deontay Johnson go to the Ravens for a late round pick swap.
right.
So the Niners have an extra third round draft choice. If they were willing to move that third, Trayvon Walker has 2 more years of cost control. He's still on his rookie deal. He's a 270-pound defensive end who could start and then opposite Bosa, and then you could bring Leonard Floyd put him in more of a situational rusher mode. And then Savage, I think you could start immediately at free safety, or you could start him at the nickel. And I think he's exactly the piece they need. He played with Adrian Amos together in Green Bay. Amos is now here as well. To me, that's the deal. I think that's the pick I would move. They've got 2 extra thirds. Maybe you trade a third and a 2026 fourth, and you try to get 2 players, and you get, a player that isn't a free agent at the end of the year in the defensive end, Trayvon Walker. And I think it would give you a better pass rush and a better coverage on the back end. I think if you had a player up front and a player on the back end, I think your defense takes a huge step forward. I think their defense needs to take a huge step forward if they're going to be a Super Bowl team this year.
Dude, I like I like that a lot. I like where you're coming from. And I also like the idea of taking really talented players from a team like Jacksonville, because a lot of times when you got a team struggling like the Jaguars and you take some of their marquee talent and put them on a competitive team that's going to be in the playoff hunt, those guys are totally rejuvenated. So you take them out of a toxic kind of negative atmosphere, you put them in a potentially championship atmosphere in the 49er locker room. And a lot of times those guys are like reborn. They hit a whole new level that they weren't able to hit with their old squad. And yeah, dude, the more pressure on the quarterback, the freaking better. So if we can get help on the edge, especially, what did you say? You think they can make some of these moves with a fourth and a fifth? Giving up a fourth and a fifth?
Well, I think D-Hop just went for a fifth.
Yeah.
And Deontay Johnson, who's a good receiver, just went for a late day 3 pick swap. It's like, here's a 7th for a 6th, or here's a 6th for a 5th. So I don't think if you offered your 3rd round pick next year, or a 3rd round pick, you have 2 of them. I think you could get a real significant player. And if you offered multiple picks, a couple picks, I think you might be able to get a couple players. It's kind of a buyer's market when you look at the price tag that many of these players go for. So I don't know. I mean, it's just an idea, but that's kind of what I would be looking for. I think the defensive end would really, really help the young DBs. I mean, that's what really stands out to me.